rocking the same shirt again, man?
Oh man. Oh no, this is a different one. This is a different one.
Okay. I'm just making sure.
Talking about the one in the video, or
I was talking about the one in the video.
Oh no. That's a different color. This is purple.
Hey, Christmas coming around, Pop. We got you. Don't worry, man. We got you, Pop. We got you.
I love it. Oh man, hey, I'm excited. I'm really excited about what we're about to do. We got a guest today, right? What?
Yeah, we got a good friend we met this year. Man, he goes by the name of Jeffery Johnston. It's amazing. He's the founder of this app called Brightn, and we talked a little bit about it, right? We talked a little bit about Brightn.
We did give a highlight.
I think what we have to do is let the founder tell us more about it, so our supporters, our people can get as excited as you are about this app.
Yeah, let's do it. No, I love it.
Yo, let's bring him in. Let's bring him in
from back.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey.
I love the intro. The intro music's awesome.
Oh man, that was
exciting. Gets me excited all the time.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm super stoked. I mean, it's been great to get to know you guys just this year. It's one of the fringe benefits of being on this spiritual journey I'm on is that I'm meeting so many people I never would have met had all this chaos in my life had not happened. Yeah. So, just really honored, humbled to have this opportunity to kind of talk and have a conversation.
Oh, no, thank you for being here and taking time out of your schedule to do so. We really appreciate that.
No problem. Joy, I'm looking forward to this.
Definitely. So, yeah. So one of the things that our viewers don't know is more about Brightn, and that's why we wanted to bring you on, because Z's been out there definitely promoting it and sharing on his, and I've been getting involved a little bit more definitely and sharing. And you just actually came out and spoke to my team yesterday, and they were excited about it. And the interesting thing, Jeff, and I didn't tell you when you were backstage, but one of the things they said once we had got off our call, they were saying like, hey, can we give this to our friends? We really want to give it to our friends. Our friends can really use this. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. So one of the questions that I have before we get into all the other stuff, though, is, because I'll forget, is there a free trial? Because me and Z were talking last night. We were like, oh, I don't know. So how the trial, is it 7 weeks? Yeah.
For the first year, we were free across the board. And we always knew we were going to put in a subscription model, like a freemium type thing. Mm-hmm. And so in October, we rolled that out. And so there's always a free version, but the real benefits of the free version aren't nearly as good as unlocking the premiums. No, not we priced it so it's like 20 cents a day is what it comes out to. It's like $6.95 a month. So it's the cost of a Starbucks latte. So, and again, depending on how you look at mental health as an expense, well, then you're probably not going to buy the app. You're not going to get a gym membership. You're not going to eat healthy foods. But if it's an investment, well, then it's just, it's not a big deal, and you'll price it into your normal mental wellness journey.
Right. Yeah. And the reason they were asking, they said they wanted them to sample it because they wanted to be able to share some of the things that they could share, and hoping that was there. But anyway, I digress, and I'm going way too far. People are like, what are y'all talking about?
Right. I was about to say, let's backpedal a little bit.
I was just excited because I wanted, other people to get excited about what my team was excited about. So
fair enough. Hey, they heard freemium, and they're like, hey, free's in there. Hold on, wait a minute. So we got them hooked. But before we even talk about how they can pay for it and what this is all about, we gotta let them know who Jeff is. Why did you start this app and in this endeavor in the first place? I got to hear a lot about your story, and I want our viewers to understand a little bit more about your why.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously, you said earlier before we went on stage, I repeat this a lot, but I do. And I think there's a reason for it, because it kind of sets the table of where I'm at. It kind of talks about my mission and my why and my passion. I have a quote that I use when I do my speaking around the country. And this is what I consider my mission statement, or on the Brightn app, I would call it my unique life statement. And it's this: purpose becomes passion when it gets personal. So you say that a few times: purpose becomes passion when it gets personal. And if you unpack that backwards, it makes more sense. Almost everybody listening or watching, or people that we have something personal in life. We do. Either you lost a grandpa to Alzheimer's, or a mom to breast cancer, or someone to a drunk driver. Or in my case, I lost 2 people to fentanyl and alcohol. And that personal experience that we have then becomes a passion. And what I mean by that is that I immersed myself in advocacy. I read books, I watched podcasts, I hung out with people that had lost family members. And so the personal experience became passion for me. And then from that, my purpose was born. So when you say that purpose becomes passion when it gets personal, and just do it backwards, it really can help people figure out like where your passions lie and like what your real calling is in life. And it normally stems, or the genesis is from, an event that we have in our own personal lives.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
That's so good. I love it. I love it. And when we talk about the Brightn app, I love the name Brightn in the first place.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why you call it Brightn. And have you talked about this before?
Yeah, yes and no.
Okay.
But yeah, so I guess the first thing I'll say is the idea behind the app is, obviously, if you look at, say, young adults, that's kind of the market. I used to say Gen Z, but that's too labeling. I don't like that. So we just say young adults. Is look at the demographics of this group of humans, which is the largest group in human history, by the way. There's 2.56 billion Gen Zers, which is 14 to 26. That's the definition.
Okay.
So as I was looking at advocacy and stuff, that youth mental wellness was really like the thing that pulled at my heart. And the reason it did is, going back a little bit further to build some context here, is my previous life. So I'm 58 today, or this year. When I was 50, I had kind of reached that pinnacle. So when I was your age, Z, I had these dreams of building this investment firm up, and I wanted to be, financially secure, and I wanted to have, my ego was really strong. I wanted the big house, the fast cars, the traveling. I achieved all that. And at 50, I really thought I had it figured out, like a lot of us do. And on October 4th, 2016, everything changed for me. And part of me died, and yet simultaneously, I was reborn as well. And at the time, on that particular day, I was 50, happily married my wife, Prudence, of 21 years, love of my life, by the way, and 3 boys. Seth was 23. I'm sorry. Yeah, Seth was 23. Ian was 15, and Roman was 13. Just your typical, middle America. Just everything I ever wanted was there at 50. And on October 4th, 2016, I got that call that every parent dreads. And, so it became a member of a club that I didn't ask to join, and one certainly I can never leave. And that's being the parent of a deceased child. And our oldest son, Seth, was found in a hotel room, like you see in the movies, kind of a seedy hotel room. I'll try to be careful here, but, needle is still in his arm, overdosed, poisoned by fentanyl that was in his heroin. Now, that's how he died, but that's not who he was. He'd have been 30 this year. And, Seth's really descent into hell came from an Adderall prescription at 15. So as I sat around thinking after he died, I'll talk a little bit about, how I dealt with it and what happened. I tried to figure out, how did this happen? I'm dad, this is my watch, Jamal, you can relate. You're a father. It's like, I'm being sexist here, but this is, I'm the man of the house. I'm the captain of the ship. How did this happen on my watch? What did I do wrong? Well, I don't think I did anything wrong, but there's certainly some things I learned in hindsight now. And one of them was that I allowed someone to put a label on my son's forehead of attention deficit disorder without any intervention, without any further inquiry of why he had lack of focus and why he was bored with school. I just allowed, a doctor basically, and I'm not throwing doctors under the bus because my dad is one and I love him. I got a lot of respect for that industry, but in my son's case, they let him down. They gave him Adderall and he abused it. And then it was the normal process of alcohol and vaping and all that. And then he was in prison for an incident that involved, ironically, he was sober and not on drugs when that happened. But I thought that was rock bottom. Right, Jamal? I mean, you always think, yeah, kids got to hit rock bottom. Maybe it's a drunk driving. Maybe it's a breakup,
Right.
And I thought prison was rock bottom. And, a couple months after he got out, he had just decided to get back into kind of the same crowd. And there's a lot of talks about the lack of support, especially young adults that get released from being incarcerated.
Yeah.
They're just kind of thrown out into the streets. There's not a whole lot of help. And I remember Seth just didn't know where to go. And I couldn't have him live back in the house because I had 2 young sons, and my wife, her and I were struggling with our alcoholism. What people didn't know, and I'd been an alcoholic since I was about 18. Functional, I can say. I drank 6-7 days a week, but I could get up early and get my stuff done, which is still, I don't know how I did that. And so Seth asked to move back in, and I said, no, you can't do that, son. That's, you can't live in my house. That ship has sailed. And the last thing I ever said to my son, I turned my back on him and I said, Seth, you need to quit drinking alcohol. And I went into my house and I never saw him again. So, do I torture myself? Yeah. I allow myself some grace, some mercy, but I also am a very tough critic on myself. And I think probably till the day I die, I'm always going to think of things I could have done differently. And if anything, I can use that to help the Z's of the world, the Jamals of the world, people out there that have families. If this hasn't happened, maybe my story will resonate. And so to kind of get to where I came up with the name of the app. So after all that happened, I really spiraled out of control. And I told my business partner, at the time I had a TV show, a radio show. I was speaking around the country, collecting investments. I mean, things were going really good.
Right.
And I told my business partner, I need to stay home for a year and work on my mental health. And all that really was an excuse to sit home and get drunker and just have the biggest pity parties in my head I could possibly find. So a year and a half after that, I ballooned up to 190 pounds. And I noticed my wife, really struggling. She was 9 years younger than me. Beautiful, beautiful. And I'm like, all of a sudden she looked 9 years older than me, just like that. And grief and prescription and alcohol and smoking and all these things were starting to take a toll on her. And I decided on 12/24 of 17, so coming up on an anniversary next week, which I don't celebrate, by the way. It's just another day for me. I decided to stop drinking, just cold turkey after 30-something years. Never had a drop since. I don't go to meetings. My thought is if you bury, half your family and you can't find inspiration, then you might as well start drinking. Because nothing's going to help you at that point. No meeting, no Zoom meeting's going to help me. If I can't get some lesson from losing my family, then I don't know what's going to help me. So I thought my stop drinking would help my wife. But on June 29th of 21, one day after Roman turned 18, so a big birthday for him, my wife died of alcoholism at the age of 46.
Wow.
And so death came into my life twice now and said, Jeff, you think you got your stuff together? I'm taking someone else that you care about. What are you going to do about it now?
Right.
And that's where the whole advocacy, my book, my podcast I did, the tour around the United States in an RV, and then ultimately the app to help young adults. And the name, so that took about 7 minutes to get to the name. But when Seth died, 3 weeks after he died, his daughter was born. So I have this absolutely beautiful grandbaby, and her name is Brightn. And that's where everything came from. That's why I'm living proof that out of the worst possible scenarios, unbelievably beautiful things can be born. And that's what I do.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that part. Yeah. No, that's a great question. So I didn't know where that came from. And I didn't. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Wow. Oh, that's Brightn. Love it.
She brightens my life. So
yes.
Man, it was it's kind of ironic, right? I mean, the name of your granddaughter, is the light, that you needed to find, and she brought that. Man,
her name could have been Julie or Tina or something, but no, it was it was Brightn. It's like that's a calling, that was meant to be. That was meant to be.
It's so true, and I love that you talk. I mean, we are a father and son, podcast and duo, and we go out and we speak, and I love that you brought that full circle. This is something that's bigger than just this is an app that I'm trying to make money. No, it's
right,
bigger than
exactly,
right.
It's I'm trying to impact lives positively, and that's something that you don't hear often. And one of our conversations that me and Jeff have had is that he does it's that app that it's a counter app to the other apps out there in the world, right?
Yeah, because a lot of them are telehealth related, guys. A lot of them are kind of like what is it? Desmond Tutu said, we need to stop pulling people out of the river. We need to go further upstream and find out why they're falling in.
Yes.
And that was my mindset with the app. I didn't want to build a telehealth app to pull people out of the river. There's enough of that out there. And it's a seedy, very lucrative industry, but it's all predicated on keeping people sick, basically, so they can stay in that hamster wheel. You build an app, you go see a doctor, they walk out with a, Prozac or Adderall. And that's kind of the system. And so these doctors pay a finder's fee or some type of a lead generate. It's just a lead generation system for doctors. And I'm not, again, criticizing clinicians and physicians because, they're obviously very, very needed. But
very important.
I think for the first line of defense, for the first option for parents, let's go through some other things first. And then if Z is still struggling, let's go in and talk to a doctor, but let's see how much sugar he's taken. Let's see how much crap he's watching on TikTok. Let's see how much time he's not getting sunlight. Let's see how much time he's not out in, talking to other human beings. Let's see how much time he's playing, Grand Theft Auto or whatever kids play on video. It's like, we didn't do any of that with Seth. I just listened to the teacher say he wasn't paying attention in school, and I took him to the doctor.
Right.
I just didn't know any better. This was back in 2009 when I got him first diagnosed. So,
wow, yeah, no, that's really interesting. So the app itself, can you share a little bit about what it is and so we know the why, but what else is included in there? You kind of gave some hints.
So when I thought about what I wanted to build, I had to think of what's already not out there, like what void. I knew the demand was strong. I mean, 20%, 1 in 5 of 68 million American Gen Zers are in what's considered crisis mode. That means they need help right now. They're cutting, they're threatening suicide, they're vaping, they're drinking, they're skipping school. But that's 1 in 5. That's where everybody's rushing to.
Right.
But just do the math. 4 and 5 are not.
Right.
So again, Brightn is for everybody. It's for the 5 out of 5. We're not just for the 1 in 5. We're for the 4 and 5. We're for the 4 and 5 that could be part of the 1 in 5 eventually. And some will. These issues don't always start at a certain age. Sometimes they come late. Sometimes they come at 10. It depends on your family environment and your demographics and where you live. And so I thought to myself, okay, I want to build an app. And my past life as a financial advisor, we did financial planning. So Jamal, if you came into my office and I would do what's called a fact finder, I would gather facts on your financial. I'd look at your tax and your income brackets and all this stuff and ask you some questions about your risk. And then I would present a plan to you. And that plan more than likely recommended that you invest money and then I diversify it for you, like stocks, bonds, real estate, cryptocurrency, whatever it may be. And I thought to myself, that's not out there for anybody, not just kids, but even adults. There's no mental wellness planning app. There's breathwork apps. There's exercise apps. There's meditation apps. There's fitness apps, but there isn't any app that does a plan, like an actual wellness plan. So I want to introduce the world to this idea of mental wellness planning. So then the next question was, well, if there's asset classes in a financial plan like stocks, bonds, and real estate, what would the asset classes be in a mental wellness planning app? And for me, it was health, wealth, and purpose. Those are the 3 areas that our curriculum is based on. So I have a white paper that I'm almost completed with. It's a combination research and a marketing white paper that shows the intersection of health, wealth, and purpose and optimizing youth mental wellness. And I believe that we can show on the app that if young adults can self-assess and autonomously build, so not coming from dad, like, hey, son, hey, Z, you're messed up. Here's an app. That ain't going to work. It never has worked. Like, don't touch the stove. How does that work with kids,
Right.
So we got to pique their curiosity. We got to bring them into a positive, empowerment, uplifting world, introduce them to some of the key features like the journaling, the AI journaling that's really popular now.
Yes.
And then kind of get out of their way. Let them decide what parts of the app they like and don't like. And then we just keep adding to it. So that's in a nutshell what we built is, I think, the world's first mental wellness planning app focusing on empowerment and in 3 areas of optimal mental wellness: health, wealth, and purpose.
And you mentioned two things out that we like a lot when we're talking about prevention, right? I like how you highlighted the 1 in 5, and we always focus on the one, right?
Yeah.
The one that is struggling the most, but we never look at the 4 that
Yeah.
could be, but
Next
aren't.
ones. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And that's what we love to do when we're doing our presentations, is highlight what are some things that we're doing that are good. Okay, well, how can we keep this up? How can we make sure
Yeah.
that there's
Yes.
0 and 5? There's like 0 across the boards, or there's 5 and 5 youth are feeling positive today,
Yeah.
or feeling somewhat neutral rather than down in the dump. So I love that you mentioned that. And the second
Agreed.
part that I love about this app specifically is the autonomy that you
Yeah.
have behind it, right? You're
Mhm.
empowering the youth to use it rather than having a teacher, a faculty member, or somebody be like, hey, you know what? You see me in my office. Hey, download this app, and that, like you said, kind of deters them sometimes. Be like, oh, well, an adult is telling me to use the app. I don't think I want to use it anymore, right? So
Right.
I love.
Right.
I just came back from a conference in Washington D.C. The Office of Juvenile Justice and Prevention conference.
Okay.
And just one lady said something that resonated with me so well. And she said, I want youth autonomy over adult supremacy, right?
I like
I
that.
want youth autonomy over adult supremacy. Because I think
Mhm.
a lot, and I think my
Wow.
pop did a good job when he was raising me, was he was the one that, all right, yo, the stove is hot. You just tell me, hey, the stove is hot. And then me being, little me, oh, that don't know what he's talking about. Let me go
Yeah.
touch this. Oh,
Not that
he
hot.
wasn't lying. So
Yeah.
I find out quick, and I'm like, I mean, it's funny because now since I'm in the field of prevention now, I look at my dad sideways. I remember turning 21, and I looked at him sideways. I was like, man, why you never stop me from doing something stupid? Like, and
Mhm.
his response. What was your response, Pop? When I said
Hey,
something like
you got to learn on your own sometimes. I'm going to tell you what's up ahead, but I'm going to be there to pick you up afterwards, though.
Right.
So some youth, as you know, want to experience things on their own, and there are some like me. When I grew up, I was like, I can watch somebody else touch the stove, and I'll be like,
Yeah.
you know what, I'm good. But so no, I definitely appreciate Jeff. I didn't know how much we had in common because we always talking about Brightn, but we never talked about our philosophies. They
Yeah.
align everything that you said and shared just recently with your philosophy aligns 100% of why I started, my nonprofit organization going upstream, and the importance of youth having a voice and paying attention to. I like to really, because I do the same thing in sharing that the youth that are doing okay have the potential to be not okay,
Right.
and they need some tools and things that can support them to not go that direction, because unfortunately the TikTok, social media, and
Mhm.
all that show that the unhealthy way is the way.
Right.
But
Mhm.
Right.
people don't get to see the healthy people doing the right thing because that's not highlighted.
Right.
And so when we talk about Brightn, what I appreciate is an opportunity for young people to stay on that course of doing well. And here are some guide rails, if you will, or
Mhm.
guidance to help you know if you are. And I was telling my team after we had hung up, Jeff, is I got this I always call it the Swatch watch. It's not a Swatch watch, it's an Apple Watch. But it tells me, how many steps I did in the day, how many calories I'm burning, this, that, and the other, so I can kind of stay on track. That's kind of what I like in the Brightn app too,
Mhm.
especially when you showed me the bars.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking negative, if you're neutral, or if you're thinking positive, and on average you're doing same thing like an Apple Watch. And the thing that people misunderstand, I think, is, and you hit the nail on the head, Jeff, also, and why you're doing this is because we always talk about physical health. And the examples earlier, you're talking about, meditation, yoga. Yes, those are definitely 100%. And then exercising and fitness apps. And
Mhm.
where are the mental wellness apps?
Yeah.
So it's beautiful, man. It's really beautiful what you're doing and the thought that you put behind it to make it happen. So share more about.
Well, I say the coolest evolution has been, and you guys have seen it live, is this AI journaling and the mood tracking element. Because what's really neat about it, and the way my co-founder and CTO Carson Goodale has helped on, is that we can set the personality of the AI. So, for example, when you going into the AI, you can say, I want to be pragmatic. I want to be disciplined. I want to be, and there's like 8 different personality traits that you can select. And as you do that, you're basically, so we've trained the AI, Carson has, and we've put specific guardrails in so it doesn't go rogue or, recommend somebody do something crazy. We've constrained its ability to think. But we also added a feature where you can actually develop a personality. So in other words, I can tell the AI my 8 core personality traits. And then as I make a journal entry and I'm sharing something about maybe I have anxiety or I'm stressed about a podcast I have to be on or something, let's say like that, the AI now can look at my personality trait, reframe the question, and then suggest recommendations based on my personality. So if I'm someone who's not highly motivated, it can reframe it into some way to get me motivated in that manner. So no 2 thrivers. And by the way, we don't call our people on the app users, we call them thrivers, but no 2 thrivers will ever have the same experience on the app. So it's very customized. It's very personal. And we are seeing right now, and I told you this yesterday, Jamal, right now we have more adults on the app. And I say adults, I mean 26 and older. More adults on the app, millennials and Gen Xers than we do, and even boomers, than we do Gen Zers right now. Wow. I think what's happening, and I'll give you a good example. I have a friend of mine who lost her son. Terrible story. He was 13 and bought what he thought was, I think, Adderall or something on Snapchat, and it was fentanyl, and he died. And Amanda's a good friend. We communicate. We try to help each other stay positive a lot. And we were just talking this afternoon about journaling. And I asked her, does she journal? And she says, well, I do, but it's a piece of paper. I write, I put it in a drawer. I come back a week later. I look at it. What am I going to write about? It just turns into a diary. And you know how those are. Diaries you never want anyone to look at. They become very impersonal. There's not a lot of data gleaned from a diary. So it's like, and so I just real quickly went to my Brightn app. I took out into the self-guided area where you just can ask questions to the AI. I asked about mental wellness and advocacy and how sometimes it takes a toll on me because sometimes I advocate too much for others and I don't advocate for Jeff. It's called self-love and self-care. I'm not the best at it. And my kids are always reminding me, hey, Dad, you need to take care of yourself,
Right.
And so I journaled that context of that question, and then I sent it to her, and she's like, holy crap, where'd you get that? I go, this is the Brightn app I've been talking. She goes, oh, I need to download it. I need to do this. And I showed her my 40 journal entries I did last week, showed her my sentiment analysis. I was 72% positive self-talk, but I was like 18% negative. Right. So, and the rest was neutral. But what I was trying to show her is that even though there's lots of things on the app that everybody's going to find different utility for, this journal entry with AI and mood tracking is just increasing our engagement on the app. I think it was almost 200% the last 30 days.
Wow.
And we're not asking for people, guys, to be in the app like 3 hours a day. It's like, I'm literally, if I make 7 journal entries a day, I'm probably collectively on the Brightn app, maybe 15 minutes, a whole day, 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there, 30 seconds here. Right. But as I keep putting in my moods, like right when I get off here, I'll say I had a really good podcast. I feel really excited. But then in an hour, I may be thinking about my son and my wife not being here for Christmas. And I may be, fetal position on the floor crying. I mean, that's my day. I do that daily. If I document that, then over time, the AI can start to recommend, maybe down the road, we want to recommend podcasts people can watch. So we'll recommend your podcast, we'll recommend books. And so as people it's easy to point at the problems. Hey, you have depression. Hey, you have trauma. But we got to move past the problem identification and get into solutions.
Yes.
Get into solutions. Maybe a solution is quit drinking. Maybe a solution is go to the gym. Maybe a solution is for the next 48 hours, don't tell a lie. Tell the truth to everybody. Even if somebody needs to know that they need to go to the gym, tell them. It's like, it's like there's something in this that we've built that I can't figure out yet why it's working and why it's so popular, because I think what we build is really missing, and that's a sense of humanity and humility.
That's so good. So good. I like the concept. We call it in our internal working is the Thriver Buddies concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love that idea because I remember for a while I was screenshotting my responses from the AI that I would get
Yeah.
and sharing on my Instagram story of like,
Yeah.
hey, and this was and similar to what your friend was sharing about how journaling is like, oh, I put it in a piece of paper and I put it away, and then it stacks up on top of each other or whatever. The same thing was for me why I didn't take my journal with me, because I like to practice journaling,
Yeah.
but I started traveling more for work. I didn't feel comfortable taking that journal with me
Right.
to the hotels rooms or to certain places where I know that, because I might forget it, even
Right.
though it is popular or something that I know is essential for me, I might forget it. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I always have on my person that I never forget is my phone, right? And that's something that I feel a little bit more secure and talking to or talking with and sharing some of my ideas or thoughts or feelings that I was going through that day. And it works for me, man. I had a hard October, just exhausting. I was
Yeah.
pouring out a lot, right? Doing a lot of
Yep.
presentations, a lot of meetings, and all these things, and pouring. But one thing I knew that I felt better was when I wrote down those feelings at the end of the day. There's two ways multiple ways that you can use the Brightn app, which I love a lot. It's like you can be like a Jeff user or a Jeff Thriver, where you're in there every hour, every 30 minutes, whatever. Or you can be somebody who's kind of like me, who's, let me sum up my day. Let me sum up what were some highlights, what were some lowlights, what were some things I want to get better at, and log it in that way too. But I love the idea of the data. The more data you put in, the more you can see how you're progressing, or your strengths and weaknesses for that month or for that week, so to speak.
If you look at mental health, it's like it's rarely your challenges rarely are convenient or conducive to being like you're not just going to have a mental health crisis in the therapist's office,
Right.
Or at a convenient time for dad. Sometimes it's 2 a.m. and you wake up and there's nobody around, and there's nobody up, and there's nobody you can call. Well, you could jump on an app, make your journal entry, get a little bit of closure, some clarity, and then go back to bed. It's like, so I think anything like Brightn or any other apps out there that are providing a service in regards to the timing and the inaccessibility problems that we have in this space, I think that's a really big plus. It's kind of like a bridge, if you can't get a hold of your therapist, or you can't reach your dad or your mom or a trusted friend for many reasons, especially in this time of year with students now with finals and things like that, sometimes they're not available at a time that's conducive to a relative. And so we're just trying to add another arrow in the quiver, another option for people. And, unfortunately, the problem in society isn't getting any better. It's arguably worse. I think just yesterday there was a school shooting, and wasn't the person like 12 or 13 or 14 or something?
Right. Yeah.
And then they shot
Elementary
themselves
school,
after they did the school shooting, and they were like 14 or something. Yeah.
Yep.
It's just like,
Something's going on, right?
when I was that age,
Yeah.
these things weren't even like out of the 100 options I could do in a day.
Right.
Even like suicide wasn't as prevalent in regards to like an option. Like now a 10-year-old is like, that's an option.
That is. Yeah.
We never even thought about that. That wasn't an option. We just thought we'd have to fight through the worst thing that's going, and we just figured out ways to get through it. And I'm not saying it's better or worse. It is what it is. And today with all this technology, and this is where, we need to be careful as a tech CEO,
right,
is making sure that we embrace the good of what tech can offer and mitigate and, tighten up the constraints on the bad that AI can provide as AI can cause as well,
One of the things that I want to highlight, and you were talking about earlier a little bit about, there are certain things that some people will gravitate more to maybe than others. And we're talking about the journaling, which is definitely unique and awesome. I'm not a huge journaling guy and have not been. But what I appreciate about wanting to do this and starting to do so is the talk to text piece. Because I'm not big on the
voice messaging. Yeah.
I know I'm always highlighting this because I'm excited about it because I'm not, I don't want to sit there and take out all my thoughts just as well as writing them all down. For me is it's just not my thing, if you will.
Yeah.
Not meaning that I don't mind writing, it's just the writing aspect.
Yeah.
And my handwriting sucks, and then I start judging myself on that, and I'm just like, never mind, leave it alone. But the voicing voice messaging to the journal part of it, and it's awesome. It works really well. It as far as time, I mean, it's just like doing a text message itself, and I'm able to kind of like talk it out. And I do a lot of suicide prevention work, and one of the things that we talk about in ASSIST, which is Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training, I'm a master trainer in that, and we talk with the participants about the need to allow somebody who's having thoughts of suicide to talk it out and have somebody listen. And like you said, I appreciated you saying like that time at 10, 12 o'clock in the morning, and you don't have anybody to talk to, or they're not going to pick up or whatever. You can just pick up your phone and say, hey, I need to journal this, and you can talk it out. Because what happens a lot of times for people is they're talking in their head.
Yeah.
Right. They're holding the conversation here. Yeah. But there's something magical about hearing yourself get it out and say it out loud. Yeah. Now there's this process that's happening of, wait a minute, am I really saying that or doing that? And what the AI then is doing is capturing those thoughts and then collecting them right to say, hey, those are negative, or those are neutral, or those are positive. Oh, keep the positive ones going. So it's a support, right? And the other thing that you said yesterday, Jeff, and I don't want to lose this, and you're probably going to share it a little bit today, is this is not to replace therapists.
Oh, no.
Right?
No, not at all.
You hit that you said that screaming yesterday, because we don't want to send that message to people.
No.
But it is something that, depending on the pieces that you use, but we're talking about the journaling pieces, an opportunity to capture what you're thinking, how you're feeling, what's going on in the moment, and then for us to kind of track it over time. So I just wanted to share that, man. I think definitely onto something. The journaling piece is amazing. The messaging, voice messaging for me. I love that piece of it. There was another question I was going to ask, and I forgot what it was now. But cost. Let's talk about cost then.
Yeah. So like I said, we were free for a year, and then we decided to put in like a premium model. So, a lot of people, I use athletes for a good example. Let's say, you have mandatory gym time. You go into your gym. Well, there's always kids that stay later, or you have study for a test, and kids come in and do what they have to do. But then you always have those that stay extra. Well, that mindset with our app was the same thing. We know there's going to be kids that want the free, parents that want the free, and it could be cost. It could just be they don't want to commit to what the premium. Once you invest money in something, then there's a sense of obligation to have to use it, which is good in a way. I mean, that's what you want. So we priced it very based on apps like this in the market. So I compared myself to the big ones out there, and $6.95 a month for a single plan, which if you pay annual, it's $66. So we give a 20% discount if you just pay once.
Right,
20 cents a day. I mean, if you can't find a way to convince your brain that 20 cents a day, even if you just use the AI journaling and nothing else on the app, you didn't watch the 251-minute videos, you didn't do the Brightn zone, you didn't do the ULS, you didn't do the programs or the opportunities, you just literally got in, tracked your mood, made a couple journal entries. 20 cents a day. I mean, it's almost laughable, but I don't want to be insulting people that can't afford it. So we do have scholarships available in our nonprofit. We had an individual that made a sizable contribution with the purpose of the funds being used to help people that can't afford the app. So that's a neat kind of idea that came up, that we now have my Living Undeterred Project nonprofit that can run parallel to Brightn. And as money comes into the nonprofit, we can use some of these proceeds to help kids in poorer cities or schools that don't have the money or the grant available money to have the Brightn experience. yeah, it's like, we're just trying to figure out ways what our lane is and how we can contribute to overall human flourishing, because when one person struggles, the whole family struggles. And I know that firsthand. Had
Right.
not what happened with Seth, a good chance my wife would still be alive and I'd still be married and I would be retired right now, and and doing what everyone else that I gave advice for retirement,
Right.
Right.
and here it is. It didn't happen that way. But how many of you people that you follow and you guys talk to, that you have these plans when you're Z's age and you see this future, and then you get to be my age and you look back at what happened in between, it's like very little of it actually happened.
Right.
And that's where I saw a statistic the other day that 82% of our thoughts are in a negative aspect.
Right.
And
Right.
95% of them are repetitive. So
Yes.
that's from Psychology Today. So what that means is most of us three included, we go through our day, and the majority, maybe Jamal's 70% and Z's 40 and I'm 90. If you average it out, it comes out to be that low 80s. But the reality is, a lot of us walk through life and we create these scenarios, these hypotheticals in our mind of future events. And the majority of them, like 85% of scenarios that we create in our minds, never happen or don't happen to the severity that we think they will.
Right.
And that's not saying you shouldn't plan. I mean, that's not saying you should just wake up every morning and sit in your yard and meditate and not do anything. That's not what this means.
Right.
But there becomes a point in time where you just got to think to yourself, think of the last year of your life, how much time you spent focused on hypothetical scenarios that never happened.
So
Whether
true.
they're financial, whether they're love interests, whether it's, health. It doesn't demean the things that do happen, but I think if we could find ways as humans to spend less time in projecting negative beliefs and thoughts, I think we heighten the probability of having a more enjoyable lived experience.
I agree 100%. And I think it's one of those normal things in our human interactions that we have to counteract, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you brought up. I just watched a TikTok that you just dropped today about reframing, right?
Yeah.
Changing the lens, and how it's easier said than done. I think
Yeah.
we say it like, oh yeah, all you gotta do is change your lens, but
Right.
and it's hard. It's not easy, because I think about youth that are in different environments, right? They're like, well, I'm seeing this happen in my neighborhood, in my community. How you want me to put the lens on this, Z? Like how?
That's a good point, Z, because I think toxic positivity is nauseating. When you watch people on TikTok and they're the big beefy guys like that, the guy that ate liver all the time or whatever. He's just like,
Right.
and there's kids that watch this stuff that think, okay, if I just ate liver every day, I'd look like this dude. Well, you don't understand. The guy's pumping him up with steroids. He's going to the gym 8 hours a day. He's probably got no social. I mean, he's probably miserable.
Right.
But you're right. It's like, that idea that when you watch these TikToks, you just see, you almost see an overuse of this strength element. But then again, I will say, I can almost see the overuse of the other side.
Yes.
Where it's like, you can see the crocodile tears. This guy isn't really sad and depressed. He's just crying on camera to get more followers.
Right.
You just got to kind of be a little careful about the incentives. And I don't spend a ton of time on social media anyway, but when I do, I'm off it pretty quick because I get completely sick of it.
Yeah, no, that's a good skill to have, man. I'm trying to lessen my social media use in this coming year. But I wanted to, if our listeners got this far in the podcast, first of all, I'm proud of y'all for listening through all of this. Because we know attention span's a little bit shorter, but if you made it this far, I'm proud of you. We got an announcement. It's okay if we make that announcement right now for our listener and viewers.
Yeah.
I think here in 2025, man, Brightn and Up to It are in collaboration with one another. We are a partner of Brightn with Brightn. Brightn's a partner with us with Up to It. So what that means for you guys as supporters and listeners and followers of the Up to It brand and organization is that you guys, with a purchase buying the Brightn app, you'll have access to some of our exclusive content from up to it. And that could look from anything from what the active listening looks like as a parent, how to be a trusted adult, as a trusted adult for a youth, even if it's not your youth, maybe a cousin, a sibling, a nephew, a niece. So we want to give that to you guys. And this is what this partnership's allowed us to do, is to give you content that is positive, that is that's real. That's not toxic positivity, but real talk and empowerment for you guys.
I think it's great. We're really excited for this because I think what we're finding is, since we've kind of built this thing, is that we're attracting people that have a brand, they have, curriculum, they have maybe, some people have books, some people have podcasts and stuff, and they're trying to figure out a way to partner or align with another entity that's, aligned with their mission. And so, like, the Brightn story aligns with so many of individuals like both of you, young and old both, that have brands that they're trying to get out there. And so it's like, if we can like join forces and we support up to it, you guys support Brightn, there is economies of scale. I mean, your followers and listeners and so forth can get really good, content that you've curated on the Brightn app. Oh, and by the way, you get everything else on the Brightn app. So it isn't just paying 20 cents a day to have content from Z and Jamal.
There you go.
You get, and then all the other people we get, you're going to have, like Gabe is on the app as well. So you can have content to what he's doing. And so as we start growing and bringing in more people, that for that 20 cents a day, it just starts to get like the value add proposition is just like, it's a pretty good deal, I think, for again, what people get and what they'll benefit. But, at the same time, we're not trying to tell people that this is the end all be all. This is an option. It's not the option. You still need to eat healthy. You still need to not vape. You still need to not, consume alcohol to the point where it's impacting your life negatively. I'm not necessarily an abstinence person, but I will say that an unhealthy relationship with anything is bad. Gambling, smoking, drinking. And there are people that can do some of these things and it doesn't impact their life negatively. And who am I to say they can't do it? So I think it's important that there are certain people like myself that can't drink and can't gamble. Bad things happen, but it took me a long time to realize that. And there's some of your followers and listeners that can go to the casino once a week and lose $50 and it doesn't affect their rent, So I think each person has to kind of decide on their own relationship and ask themselves, how's it going for me? How's my gambling on my phone going for me? And if it's not going well, then your body will tell you. Your body will always tell you. Doesn't always. Your mind always doesn't, because your mind can lie to you, but your body can't. That feeling in your stomach, you can't lie about that. But your mind can do lots of things, especially for younger kids that have the prefrontal cortex that's not fully formed. And I say younger, heck, they think it's like 27 now. So it isn't just 13-year-olds we're talking about. College kids that are getting their masters.
Yes.
Some of them may not have their prefrontal fully formed. That's amazing.
Exactly right.
Smarter than me, and they don't have their prefrontal formed.
So definitely want to thank you, Jeff, for coming on board. Hey, tell us where, or tell them where they can where can they find the app?
Yeah, so it's Brightn Wellness on the App Store and on Android. It's just BRIGHTN. My granddaughter's name is actually spelled with an O, but I took it out to protect her privacy. So BRIGHTN app is that's the Brightn Wellness, I'm sorry, is under the App Store. And then the website is brightnapp.com. And then my email is jeff@brightnapp.com. So, I'm sure you'll have the ability to let people know how to contact me and stuff. If someone wants to email me personally and just has a question about a family member that's struggling, I'm not a therapist, but I have pretty good experience in this area.
Yeah.
I also have lots of people throughout the country as a resource that I can one phone call or text away from getting somebody help in most states. So jeff@brightnapp.com. Again, Brightn Wellness on the App Store. And like I said, we have a long ways to really go in regards to what we want to do. But what we have right now is it works. It's functional. as a founder and CEO, it's never where I want it, but it's good enough right now. And that's the data we're getting back from thrivers using it is great. And that's what it's all about. So we can make the experience better for everybody.
And you mentioned the book. Did you want to plug that at all?
Yeah, I wrote a book after Seth died and before my wife died. I wrote a book called This One's for You, an inspirational journey through addiction, death, and meaning. And the reason the title This One's for You is my middle son, Ian, who was a highly ranked junior golfer, ended up playing Division I golf at South Dakota. But on his sophomore year of districts, that's the day Seth died. So as I was taking Ian and dropping him off in his sophomore year, I got the phone call that they found Seth. And I never told Ian. I was looking at Ian right in the face as I'm being told that Seth died. But I didn't want to ruin his day and the whole team. And so I just said, Seth's not coming back. I don't need to tell Ian right now. I want Ian to go out and have the best day he can. Well, as it turned out, he 3-putted the last hole, I think, and double bogeyed, and we missed state by 1 shot. When our school never made state before, ever. And this was the year we were going to do it because Ian was this little phenom.
Right.
And I never told him. And the next year, as fate has it, on the same hole where he 3-putted, he birdied, and we went to state for the first time in school history.
Wow.
In districts. Yeah, it's like in the book, I have the still shots because the TV stations were there following Ian because he had raised about $30,000 in high school after his brother died. And every time he made a birdie, he would hold his putter in the air and say, "This one's for you." And that's the title of the book.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's so cool. Well, hey, Jeff, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with our listeners and to talk with us and to continue building our relationship in a positive way. We appreciate you. Thanks for coming and talking to my team yesterday. This is amazing. We support it. Looking forward to the growth, and more importantly, the growth of young people being able to continue to do well, and even people in general, not even young folks, right? We all are on a journey to do the best that we can, and we sometimes need support, and Brightn app is definitely one of those things that can help us do that. So thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff, man. We appreciate you.
You guys brightened my day.
Oh, man. Love it. Hey, we out of here, man.
Yeah, we out.